our annual renewal meeting, most important meeting of the year as far as health insurance is concerned. And especially important this year because we are a trust now. Everything is in place for us to insure as under one contract with 142 members. So this been a very exciting process over the last year and a half to get this process in place. And today you get to see some of the fruits of our work. The first thing I'd like to do is thank the members, the trustees. John, how do I push the slide forward? Okay, we're on MEWA update. One more slide. Okay. In addition to myself, we have 5 other trustees, most of whom are here today. If they want to stand up and wave. Carol Lerner, Joan Barone, Rosalie Jones, I think, may have dialed in. John Berg is here. Hey, John. And Martha Skaish is also dialed in. So the trustees have met a number of times, and there's been another committee which we've shown to you. Sorry.
Excuse me, I have to share the screen. I can't see.
Oh. You're there.
Good. Okay. Sorry.
That's okay. We just had a little technical moment while we're getting the slides up on the screen for those of you in your offices doing this remotely. In addition, we have a number of members whose names I won't list now. We've listed them off before. Volunteers who served on the committee to choose the third-party administrator. And I have to tell you that this group did a huge amount of work. I can't count the number of meetings. We had 8, 10, 12, some of which went on for half a day, interviewing some of the contestants, some of the firms 2 and 3 times. And so it was quite a struggle to learn as we were interviewing as to what it was that we wanted to hire. And I have to say that what I really respect and valued in this group is the flexibility of mind it took to learn something as you were deciding it. And people maintained enough flexibility in their outlook to change their mind dramatically from one part of the process to another as to who would best serve our group. And in selecting Business Solver from Iowa, as we've told you previously, we're extremely satisfied with the quality of the partner that we've taken on. They look to be wonderfully efficient. They've been at work already for a couple of months. They're working hand in hand with our brokers at Armstrong, Doyle & Carroll, and John Manning will be letting you know more about that as the meeting progresses. We've also asked you folks to do some things. Everybody's had to sign a participation agreement. This time last year, we showed you a trust agreement that you're asked to accept. So those 2 pieces are in place. And finally, you will be receiving another version of the plan document. You were given a draft plan document, but there's been some late subtle modifications made to that plan document, which you'll have in your hands by early September. The changes that have been made have been motivated by input from our member institutions. There are some changes that we will implement in next year's participation agreement and in subsequent writings of the trust document. Again, I say they're subtle, but they were meaningful to at least one member institution and seem to us to be things that every school would want to have. And I'll be discussing, outlining what some of those issues are. But what you need to know is that the governance of this organization is your governance. The trustees have been selected by you. We have room for additional trustees if somebody's eager to be involved in this part of school management. We could certainly use more input. But in the end, whether you have a representative on the trustee committee or the support committee, you're absolutely welcome to participate and are encouraged to participate in our deliberations and our decision-making, because in the end, the only policies we want to have are policies that are good for the community of schools that we represent. So please feel that the governance process belongs to you and is open to your school's needs, your school's ideas. Now, to just sum up what some of the recommended adjustments have been, it was requested that we clarify and amplify that no school is responsible for the legal mistakes or the premium payments of any other member in the trust. In other words, we're all responsible for implementing the health insurance law at our own school in a way that's appropriate. Now, the Paisley Trust can serve, and our lawyers, et cetera, can serve as a background of advice. But in the end, each of the schools has the exclusive fiduciary responsibility to make sure that the health insurance laws are applied appropriately at their school. And no other school bears any responsibility for any mistakes that you might make. Secondly, on the premium, everybody's responsible for their own premium. It's not as if somebody forgets to pay or refuses to pay or goes bankrupt, that the rest of you will have to pick up their slack. Now, to the extent that there's a bill that must be paid, we've worked very hard, and we believe that's limited to 1 month's worth of exposure. You cannot cut off, Paisley cannot cut off the health insurance to your employees because you miss a payment, at least not for 1 month. But at the end of that month, count on the fact that you will have paid or your employees will be cut off. The financial responsibility for that premium will continue to lie with the school that took on the service and provided the benefit to their employees. But if it has to be made up for financially because that school can't, that would become a responsibility of the trust and not the individual members of the trust. So we've discussed this on many occasions in many different ways. At this point, that's as clear as I can be about it. And if that's not fully explicitly written into the documents this year, it will be in next year. There are also concerns about receiving notification about changes. Okay, I'm in a group now. What if something changes? What could possibly change, and how will I know about it? Can I be forewarned, or can I at least be told after the fact? So what we have to say about that is if there are any significant changes in benefit offerings, for example, dropping HMO 15, and going to HMO 30, whatever it would be, that will never happen without 60 days advance notice from the trust that such a change is being made. In practical terms, PASIG has never made such changes without giving substantial advance notice, usually more than a year's notice that we're going to drop a plan, add a plan, so that people have a chance to integrate that into their life. When next year comes around, you're going to be asked to do another participation agreement on July 1st, okay? In order to make an intelligent decision, we feel prior to that point in time, you're going to have notification of plan changes. So this 60-day advance notice, okay, which is 60 days before November 1st, in practical terms, it's going to be a spring notification. The board's going to have, the trustees are going to, and IBC and the brokers are going to have to plan well ahead of time so that your school is not crowded into a decision on July 1st that it's unprepared to make. Similarly, 90-day advance notice of material changes to plan terms. For a while ago, we dropped down from 4 tiers to 3 tiers or something like that for one of the plans. That kind of change, again, the advance notice would be substantial. And then after the fact notice, within 90 days, that a member has left the group or a new member has joined. So the decision to accept a new member, it will be handled by the trustees from time to time as those those events come up. But and while it's rare that a member leaves the group, all the members will know within 90 days through some kind of email or notification that the composition of the group has been changed. So any question about any of that? Okay, finally, not finally, another area where clarification was of interest was the circumstances under which participating members may be removed. The ones we know about right now are non-payment of premiums, leaving membership in PAYSBOA. You can't be a member of this health insurance trust unless you're a member in good standing of PAYSBOA. If a member school were to make material misrepresentations in their participation in the group, or a failure by a participating member to comply with the law or the terms of the condition of the plan or trust. In other words, you have to be a law-abiding, rule-abiding member of the trust to participate in the health insurance plan. Any questions about that? Okay, and then clarification of mechanics upon non-payment of premiums. How is the arrearage rectified? I think I already, as an example, explained that as clearly as I can. Now, as I said, we'll be updating the plan document and sending it to you by early September to show whatever of these changes we can include this year. Any changes or any suggestions, modifications that have been made by member institutions that the trustees have approved of or will approve of that would affect either participation agreement or the trust will not be implemented until the 2015-16 year. And those things will be made available, any such changes will be made, communicated to, made available to the membership as they come up. Finally, in regard to all of these things, we're assuming that we're planning for the trustees to issue what's called an administrative policy, where we'll basically be indicating things that we have changed or would like to change that we would like to implement as a matter of administrative procedure. One thing that will come out in that regard, in addition to the things that we talked about so far, is the process that a member institution has to go through in terms of notifying its own employees if it doesn't pay its bill. In other words, the last thing that we want is that an employee loses their health insurance without warning. So if for any reason at all a member cannot or will not pay its bill, they're going to be required as a condition of membership to let each of their employees know as quickly as possible that their health insurance may terminate at the end of the month. I don't think that we can do that directly as a trust, but we can require our members to do so. So that's really the kinds of issues that have come up. If you have any other issues, we'll have a Q&A at the end of this meeting. I could accept any couple of questions right now. If you have any concerns about the trust or any questions about things I've mentioned so far. Are there any questions? Colleen, if you get any questions from the people who are online, just give them to me as they become timely, okay? All right, with that, I'm going to hand the podium over to John Mannion, who's going to carry you through the whole renewal process, the setup with Business Solver, et cetera. I'll stay around and chime in where he misses something. I'll try and add it in, but you have to know that the people at Armstrong, Doyle, and Carroll, and particularly John Mannion, have been working night and day to implement all of this change, to incorporate this new partner at Business Solver. John, was it just you, or was it you and a bunch of people? Okay, a couple of people from Armstrong, Doyle, Carroll went out to Iowa to meet with Business Solver so they could understand their processes and how we will integrate with those processes, and he'll be sharing that with you today. But I want to give a round of applause to our partners at Armstrong, Doyle, and Carroll, who've worked like slaves.
We're actually going back out to Iowa today. Jackie, myself, Andrea Doyle, Matt Doyle, and did you know that the Iowa State Fair has a life-sized sculpture of a cow carved from butter? Did you know that? Well, nor did I. I'm fascinated, and it's going to be the first thing that I go out and see. No, I won't eat it. That's not part of our wellness program. So what we'll do is, for the remaining part of this presentation, is to go through the climate of healthcare in the United States of America. We'll talk specifically about the renewal as it impacts the Pays-Boa Consortium of Schools. I'll then pivot into the Business Solver TPA functionality and take any questions along the way from anybody, both in the room and online. So feel free to interject. One thing, though, if you do have a question, we're actually going to ask that you just pause for a moment because there are microphones. And the reason we ask for that is because we're taping this and it's online. And if you were to say it from the room, they won't be able to hear it online. So we're just asking for that piece to it. Okay? So just a couple of points. As we all know, healthcare costs continues to increase at a precipitous rate. And this is an important point, right? We made these Affordable Care Act changes, but none of those changes address the heart of the matter, which is medical costs. It might have been about the delivery system or about offering care out to the uninsured, but nothing went to the actual cost, which is the driver of all of this in our country. So the price of a baby in 2010 went up in 2011 and 12 and 13. Nothing materially changed except for the cost. So this is something that we're all just dealing with in this country and we'll continue to deal with until somebody actually gets in to address the cost drivers of this. However, we have a very unique and wonderful thing with Pays-Boa. Pays-Boa, because of its collection of 140 schools, 11,000 members, and then because of all the subscribers, 23,000 covered lives, protects all the schools that are in this consortium from the volatility that exists otherwise in the marketplace. We had a very unique year this year. As Bob said, we worked feverishly throughout the spring and the winter. And then finally it came to a head in the summer to try and make sure that we offered you today the best deal possible. And we were very happy to accomplish that goal. So throughout the spring, and you know this, because I've talked about it before, we were engaged in a lengthy conversation with Aetna. And Aetna was very, very, very interested in the Pays-Boa Consortium of Schools. I found that fascinating because here we are, this group of schools in Philadelphia, and here's Aetna, this multinational billion-dollar corporation, and from their highest levels, the CEO, Bertolini, was interested in Pays-Boa. I was smitten by that. I really was. And the reason for it is because this group is something that they were very interested in from, getting into the marketplace perspective. They thought if they could crack this, then they can get into the public school space and they can get into all these other avenues. And so they put everything behind it, and they came in with a very attractive offering of 7% over our current renewal rates. And here's the good news. We didn't take it because we got one better. Pays-Boa is also working with Delta Dental, and not all the schools are in the Delta Dental arena. There's about 105 to 110 of them. But the same conversations that we had with our medical carriers, we had with our dental carrier, and we said, this is a very lucrative book of business for Delta Dental, and we want to make sure that they have the sharpest pencils possible when they're writing this case. And we put this dental block to bid, unbeknownst to you. It didn't require anything on your part, but we took all the claims information and sent it out to a number of carriers. And when you do that, you always make sure that your underwriter is going to come back to the table with the best possible. And they did. They came in with very aggressive dental rates, and those are going to be illustrated in your packets as well as renewal letters that are coming out to everybody. But it is a factor which is de minimis at best, and so I think that you'll all be very pleased with what we saw in the dental. Let's flip back to the Affordable Care Act for a second. Cost drivers are always out there. 2014, the Affordable Care Act took full bore, and now we see the results of this as it has an expansion in fees that all fully insured and self-insured groups must pick up. The first one is this PCORI, which is the Patient-Centered Outcome Research Institute. It's a small fee, but it adds up. So it's going to be $2 per member per year, and that's added into our renewal. We have to pay that. The health insurance fee last year was $8 billion. This year it's $11.3 billion. So that's a fee which is affixed to all health insurance companies to help pay for this expansion of coverage. And amazingly enough, they don't absorb that cost. They pass it through to you and I. I was shocked by that because I thought they had benevolence in their heart, but they don't. So we'll see that in our renewal as a factor. And then the last one is this reinsurance fee. The exchanges that went online in the beginning of 2014, they actually went, remember, they went online in October of 2013. They imploded completely, but then they got them back up. Those have a stabilization fee in there because the people that are going into the exchange coverages, they're using it. They're using it a lot. And so there needed to be enough premium dollars to pay the anticipated claims. That will drop over time. It doesn't necessarily go away, but it's a cost factor that we have to pick up in this renewal. All told, the Affordable Care Act added 4.2% to our premium rates. So that was an astonishing factor to see. But it's okay, because we were still able to get a good deal. Going back to the Aetna conversation, this is a conversation which isn't over. I want to be clear on that point. We actually were surprised when we broached this with a number of institutions to say, would you be interested in moving to Aetna? Because there's been this supposition that Blue Cross was the way that you had to go. It was just Blue Cross. Well, that's not the case anymore. I think everyone realizes it's their fiduciary responsibility to put the best offer on the table for their employees and also make sure that the dollar amounts don't just continuously erupt each year. So Aetna will be a conversation that we have into 2014-15. We'll be re-engaging with them, and we want to make sure that you're aware of that. And just a couple of the bullet points at the bottom of the page there are things that they do that we really found interesting. This expanded geography. That means that Pays-Boa can grow outside of the Philadelphia 5-county area. And that's important because if we were to gain schools in Lancaster or Delaware or New Jersey, that increases the stabilization pool. So that's a positive for everyone. The national HMO is huge. Right now, if you want to have people living in Chicago or Arizona, et cetera, you have to put them on a guest membership or take a PPO. The PPO is 20% higher, if not more, than the HMO. This would negate that point. So that's something which we thought was attractive to a lot of people. The better technology piece to it, it might not be too fascinating, but I think it is. The point of a person on a high deductible health plan having to pay true costs, but not knowing what the costs were, that always kind of struck me as a huge disconnect. So Aetna's platform allows for you to take out your iPhone and sit at Bryn Mawr and find out exactly to the dollar how much is that MRI before you get that MRI. And we don't have that functionality currently. We feel that if we did have that tool, we could give it to our membership. They can make better decisions, and that helps keep costs down because we now have consumers. I always love to say that a person could tell me almost to the dollar how much their pair of shoes costs, but has no idea how much anything in the medical space costs. And that's a problem. Okay? And the last thing is this wellness program being included. The wellness programs that they were going to include would have been wellness opportunities at each one of your schools, plus gift card programs for people who take advantage of health reimbursement accounts, et cetera. It was really attractive. And sometimes people gloss over with wellness. They think it's just kind of icing on a cake. But this was a commitment to try and bend cost trends from Aetna. And they were really kind of committed to that effort. At the end of the day, after looking at it all, we said that the 7% increase over current was an attractive number, but what ended up happening was Blue Cross was able to beat that number. So that's the good news story. What we're going to do now is actually walk through the entire medical renewal calculation and then the RX renewal calculation. Now, I know your tolerance for pain. And by pain, I mean sheer boredom. So I'm going to do the medical in detail, but the RX actually follows the exact same logic train, so I won't beat you into submission. Because honestly, when I'm standing up here watching half the room fall asleep, it pains me. So I'm not going to do that to you or to me, all right? So let's take a look. We start at line 1. And again, all these slides are made available.
Yeah, that's a 20% increase.
That's a 20% increase?
Isn't it? The RX?
The RX. That is, and I'm not going to
sneak it by?
I'm not going to give you short shrift on that, Joe. You'll see it.
Okay.
All right, so we start with allowable charges on the medical. This is all the claims that were incurred from everyone in the previous plan year. And then what you see at the very next line is the discount savings. So Blue Cross takes 62% off of those allowed charges. That's the discounts that they have with Penn, with Jefferson, with Bryn Mawr. That's the attraction of Blue Cross, is there's strong discounts with the doctors and the facilities out there. So they lock that right off the top. Line 3 is the copays, the deductibles, the coinsurance, the member's responsibility to the payment of the plan. And what that leaves us with is a net payment line number 4 of $71 million. $71 million, just for your edification, was right around where we were last year. So that's good news coming out of the gate because you see us kind of in line with where we were.
Interruption?
Oh.
Just a quickie. That 62.7% discount does not apply to uninsured services. Okay, so as you're selecting plans for your employees, okay, there are different ways of lowering your cost. The most dangerous way of lowering your cost is to have services not be insured at all. Better that there should be a 90% copay than there's no insurance whatsoever. Similarly, the subscriber responsibility of $6 million, okay, does not include whatever costs they're going to pay that are uninsured costs, right, John? Correct. So be careful as you're selecting plans and trying to save premium dollars that you don't expose your employees to budget killing, potentially bankrupting costs from uninsured services. This is a subtle way in which plans can change from one another, and you can count on the fact that the trustees and the brokers will be helping you sort between quality product and non-quality product. And this is a very, very important consideration. Okay? Sorry, John.
No problem. All right, so going back to it, now we're starting at line 4, net payment, $71 million, and then we take off the stop-loss claims. Stop-loss claims are high-cost claimants that go in excess of $300,000 for a person, just one person, right? So that's going to include doctor's claims, pharmacy claims, facility claims. It's a lot. In fact, in this past year, I believe it was only 9 people who crossed that threshold. So that number coming off the top, we want that number to be as low as possible because we don't want those claims to be so huge. But we do have to remove those from the overall pot. Line number 6 is incurred but not reported claims. So Blue Cross is taking a snapshot in time and they're saying that this is what happened in that 12-month period. But they know that there's still claims out there. So when they took the snapshot, right at the tail end of it, some mother might have been going in to deliver a baby. And that baby wasn't in their snapshot. So they put a smoothing factor in. It's worth 3%. So they take that number of $71 million and they smooth it by another 3%, saying there's claims out there that we know we're going to be picking up because they were incurred on the very last day, but we just didn't get the bill from the doctor yet. What's that worth? It's worth about 3%. So they add that into the mix. Line number 7 is capitation. That's all of our keystone plans, and that's 2/3 of our population. So when you go into an HMO plan or a point-of-service plan, your doctor, who is your primary, is capped to a radiologist and to a physical and occupational therapist, and it's a more cost-effective plan because those doctors are being paid on a per-member, per-month basis, as opposed to fee-for-service, which is what happens under a PPO arrangement. So I'm kind of getting into the weeds here, but on a PPO, if I go to my dermatologist, they're going to charge me $125, whereas if I'm on an HMO and I go to my radiologist, they're getting a fixed amount. It's a more cost-effective plan, but we pay for it, $6 million just for that. Now we're at $79 million, and what happens here is Blue Cross takes that $79 million. In line number 9, they divide it. They divide it by the total members that are in Pays Boa. So it's actually member months throughout the course of the year. It ends up being about 241,000. They divide it by that to get it down to a number which we can now function with, $332. So that's a member per month figure. In line 10, they get us a little bit older because we got a little bit older by a small fraction. And in line 12, they trended. What does that mean? Well, we said at the outset, medical inflation keeps going up, right? So this is where they take that into account because they need to set a rate for our group, which is going to hold until October 31st, 2015. So whatever the number that they come up with right now is going to be on the books until then. They don't want to shortchange themselves, so they put in their trend factor of 9.78. Last year it was a little bit lower. The year before that it was a little bit lower. So you can kind of see this uptick. Time will tell if that kind of hits the top out point. I do remember times where that trend was at 11%. So it's kind of like one of those mortgage stories. Oh, I remember mortgages used to be so high. So they trend that out for 18 months, and now we're standing at $371. They're going to charge us for stop loss right here. Okay, they forgave it up there, but they bill it for us down here. I can tell you that the charge for the stop loss dropped tremendously from last year. But there is always that charge to cover those high-cost claimants, and you want to have that in there. It's an umbrella policy. Last is the target cost ratio. How much does it cost for Blue Cross to process all of Pays Boa? And that means claims and enrollment and underwriting and keeping the lights on. That number, when you invert it, is the retention amount. That number generally, on most employer groups of 100 to 500, it's about 87 to 89%. We are at 92.12. So that's a good number, and we want to continuously push on Blue Cross to say our admin should be incredibly small, because certainly now with our TPA, we're doing all of their work. So we'll be continuously pushing that argument, okay? Now, as Joe said, there is an RX side to the ledger. And the RX, as you can see, starts at 38 million. You remove the copays, and you're at 19 million. And it runs down the line in the same fashion. These slides will be made available so you can study them at your leisure. But I do have to go to page 2 of this presentation. This is all just from the previous slide. So here's page 2. Now, page 2 at the top, 17, 18, and 19, all those pieces right there are all actually Affordable Care Act. So the Affordable Care Act piece that I talked about in the beginning, which was 4.2% added to our costs, are all broken out there. It's all on the medical. So you can see that in total, line 20, they added $17.97 to our rate. It's not a good thing. Hopefully it will start to abate over time, but this is our new normal, that we'll have these line items added into the renewal. Personal choice is a PPO plan, and by law, it gets taxed in the state of Pennsylvania. So there's a premium tax that gets added into the formula. Line 22 is the agent advisory fee. And that adds up to line 23, the required premium, where we are right now, $450. So we're at $450, but what we actually are collecting is $422. So you take the $450, you divide it by the $422, and that gets you a 1.86% medical renewal and a 19.44 drug renewal. Now, if you look at it, we actually started out with a renewal increase that was higher. And this is how the story went. Blue Cross knew that we were talking to Aetna. Aetna proposed a renewal increase of around 10%. And Blue Cross came back and they said, we think we're around 7. Aetna came back and said, we are also at 7. Blue Cross said, where do we need to be? And I said, less than 7, and enough to not make people blink. So they got us less than 7, and it ended up being a number of 4.5. 4.5 was the aggregate medical renewal, adding in the drug, of 1944. And just for a second, if I could just call your attention to the drug. The drug is running hot. This would be an underwriter's version of our claims experience. It's running hot. There's a reason. It's biotech injectable drugs. And this is a difficult gorilla to tackle. Biotech injectable drugs are drugs like Copaxone for MS and Humira and Enbrel for rheumatoid arthritis. They make people's lives better. They cost $3,000 a month. 1% of our population drove 28% of our total RX costs. This is going to be a number that we'll keep an eye on over time, but it's tough to tackle when the costs are so high but the benefits are so good. You've been seeing possibly in the past couple of weeks articles about an $84,000 pill, things that will cure hepatitis C, but they're incredibly expensive. So this is going to be something that we have to keep an eye on, because it's not like we're all taking non-formulary meds. We are taking generic meds, but those biotechs are driving costs, and they're resulting in the 19% renewal increase on the RX. So we take our aggregate renewal, the Pays Boa royalty, the trust, and the wellness factors that have always been in there are added with the 0.55. Third-party administration, which I'll talk about in a moment in detail, as 0.3. And your aggregate renewal impact for the 2014-15 renewal is 5.35%. I'm going to turn it over to Bob for a moment.
Okay. here's what you want to compare that increase to. Last year, 13-14, after negotiation, et cetera, crying all night, we had 10.9% increase. We weren't happy with it, thought it was an overcharge, and I think to some extent it was. So on a multi-year basis, we're basically self-insured. Rates had to come down this year. The first offering from Blue Cross a month or two ago was 9.85% and did not include the 0.3 for the TPA because we didn't even know the number then. So that was where we started, 9.85. Our first revision with them, after a lot of hard work by Armstrong Doyle Carroll, was 8.05%, 7.75 normally plus 0.3, 0.3% for the TPA, 8.05. That's where we were maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Finally now, including all costs, the royalty to Paisbo, our sponsoring organization, to support the work of that organization, the cost of running the trust, cost of wellness programs, and now finally the cost of having a third-party administrator do the administrative stuff for us. Altogether, 5.35%, less than half of last year's increase. It's a very wonderful outcome. We promised you that in adding the third-party administration, it would not add to your costs. What we were able to shave off of the administrative costs and the administrative percentage of Blue Cross more than counteracts this small increase, and we hope you're happy with. We think the performance, if everything happens the way it's been shown so far in our work with the TPA, is we should be seeing a much easier way of dealing with our health insurance in the future than we've necessarily had in the past. And when IBC gets up to talk, you'll be seeing that they're changing their processes as well to be more efficient, to be more forthcoming with information, to be more 21st century in their business arrangements. But Business Solver's already there. So as I told the members of the Paisbo board earlier, I don't think I said it here, maybe I did, that we would be setting our own bill and paying our own bill and having them second guess it. Yes, I did tell you. So the only thing that I neglected to tell you in my part, and I'll throw it in right now, is we have, Paisbo has received its tax exempt certificate or standing as a 501c6 membership organization, a very important change. Our lawyers will be passing that information along to the Department of Labor, which is still in the process of reviewing and writing a letter on behalf of the trust. So that is ongoing. And on membership, I have to say that we maintain our membership really, really well. There's two of our larger members that have gone on to insure on their own. We know both of them in the past have been interested in doing self-insurance. We're not sure if that's what they're doing for next year or if they're just planning ahead. But otherwise, John has been very successful in herding the cats. I think he's got most of the agreements in hand. If there are any that are still outstanding, we urge you to get them in this week. But we've been able to maintain the membership, and here's a reward, a very modest health insurance increase for next year. John?
Thank you. Last year when I stood here and the number was, 10.9, there was no applause. It was like Aunt Ginny died, so the air went out of the room. Here, look, let's just do this, though, because this is important. I work at Armstrong Doyle Carroll. It's a small firm. We have 20 employees. We got our renewal. It was 33%. So we built this MIWA to protect the 67 small schools that would have been out in that environment and undoubtedly facing that type of volatility. The underwriter who is in charge of this case, Ed Clare at Blue Cross, when we asked him the impact, he said those small schools will get crushed. That's a quote, okay? So this consortium maintaining its size and protecting from the volatility, this is what it's done over time. Over the last 5 years, pays BOA has averaged a 6.6 renewal increase. Now, that in and of itself is astounding when you see large groups standing on their own and they'll be in receipt of a 30% renewal increase and then a 3, and they've got these huge swings. And it's not because of overall bad claims, it's because of 2 bad claims. A NICU baby and a long-term cancer will sink a ship. But because we're so large, we're able to absorb that and maintain this smoothness. Further, as we demonstrated with our experience with Aetna, we're large enough that other people are interested in that business. That's a leverage that you would not get standing alone. So that in itself is a huge impact effect. And then, okay, if you don't take my word on it, let's use some real data. I did this last year. I'm doing it again. I did it last year, and actually people said, you shouldn't have done that, but I'm doing it again. This is Villanova. It's on their webpage. So if it's on their webpage, I feel it's fair game. But this is Villanova, okay? This is their 2014-15. There's 7-1 groups, so these renewal rates just came out. The plan that I'm pointing down the lower left, that's an HMO C3 F3. That's our plan. We have a C3 F3, okay? A couple of interesting things here. First and foremost, the employee cost share, it's an 80-20 if you do the math. They're charging their single employees at Villanova, that light on the hill, $123 a month to have an HMO C3 F3. I just want to point that out to you. I know that I've talked to a number of schools that say we're very adamant about keeping a 0 contribution for our employees. We feel it's hugely important, and I say that's fine. $5, $10, that's the price of a cup of coffee. And we're talking about insurance. Maybe this is an eye-opener, the fact that Villanova is asking for $123 a month for their HMO plan. But more importantly is where my arrow is pointing. They're 11.5% higher than our rates. Now, they're not coming in, right? So that's not a conversation I'm getting to, and it's certainly not something that we're going near. But there's hard evidence that this consortium is strong and stronger than what you would find standing alone. Villanova has almost 3,000 employees. It would be 3 times as large as our largest school, and their rates are almost 12 points higher than what we pay, okay? So that's large. Let's look at small. Here's a group that we have, and they just got their renewal. Now, this is what the renewal looks like. So this is a little interesting. On the left-hand side, I redacted all the names. Obviously, I don't want to show that. But where I have that grab on the left, that's a one-family group. So you're now accustomed to single rates, parent, child, children, employee, spouse, and family. It's not how it happens anymore in small group. And remember, small group is going to extend to 100 plus in 2016. The MEWA protects against that. So that would have been 95 of our schools. This would be your renewal. It's not a renewal based upon your tiers. It's a renewal based upon every employee and their dependent and then their respective ages. So in that one family, the husband's 53, the wife is 56. They have separate rates. Her rate is $627, his is $717, and then the kids, total family premium, $2,000. $2,000. This is an HMO Gold. And so you think, well, all right, look, that's an old family. Frankly, I don't think it is. All right, they just have 3 children there who are in their 20s. That's many, many of our employees who pays BOA. So fine, go to the person who I circled in blue. That's a 42-year-old. That's an average age, right? They're paying $407 for a single. And then I found a kid, 26. So that's the best rate you're going to find, right? The young, 26, the untouchables, the premium payers. That's $314. That's $314 for a single rate for a 26-year-old. So the plans at Gold Premier, you can see the drug. It's 1050-75. 1050-70, that's not a good drug plan. It's frankly pretty lousy. Let's look at the medical. Here's their medical. This is the plan that they're going to be paying $2,000 for a family for, $400 for a single for. This is the HMO Gold Premier. Copays are $30 for the doctor and $60 for the specialists. When you go to the hospital, it's $500 a day to a 5-day max. If you go into the outpatient surgery, it's a $450 ER copay. All right? I'm sorry, $250. It's $450 if the urgent care, or the outpatient is done in a hospital. Look down at the bottom. If you go for an X-ray, $60. If you go for an MRI, $250. So these are garish plans. This is an HMO Gold. Actually, it's Gold Premier. There's only one other level higher, and that's the Platinum. So this is like the best. And this is what's out there. And this is what we would have had to implement for 60-plus pays BOA schools, and then an additional 30 in 2016. This is what we avoided. So you can look at your family rates. I know them. None of them go really much higher than $1,600 if you're in the HMO. If I put an equivocal plan up to this, our rates would have been about 25% less than the exchanges, and the coverage would have been much better. So I know that your employees might say to you, shouldn't we go to the exchange? Maybe your board would say to you, shouldn't we just drop coverage and go to the exchange? And that's fine. Certainly you want to take a look at that if that's of interest to you. Know what's out there. Take a look. And I think that there's a good demonstration that what you have is better than what you're going to get. So just wanted to point that out. All right. Now that we have the renewal factor in place, and everyone is kind of thinking about, okay, how does this impact my school? What was my budget? What am I going to do now? I just want to point out just 4 things to think about. These are planned strategies, and we do this math all the time, and we would love to sit down with you and assist. Just 4 real quick planned strategies that if you make modest changes, you can actually turn this renewal from a 5 to a 0, maybe even a negative. If you change your RX plan from a 10-20-35 to a 15-35-50, that's 5 points. That's a minimal drug change. If anyone is still holding to the 10-20-35, I strongly encourage you to take a look at that action. You're really just asking for an additional $5 copay on drugs for the generics, a little bit higher on the brand. De minimis change, you could offer a 0 to your employees. All right? If you move your HMO 15 over to the C2F2, that changes 5.5. So the HMO 15 used to be our most popular plan. A lot of schools moved to the C2F2 last year, and if you did that already, that's fine. But if you didn't, take a look at it. You could offer a flat renewal to your school with a real modest change. And you can look at the benefits. There's side-by-side comparisons in the books. So line them up or call us, and we'll do it for you. We actually really enjoy to do that. If you're on the C2F2 and you want to move to the C3F3, you'll have a -4 because it's 9 points right there. So anyone who moves to the C2F2, if you have an appetite for change, this moves your copays from $15 to $20, and on the specialist it moves from $30 to $40. But you'd be able to actually drop costs to your employees. And then lastly, there is some of these old plans, HMO 515s or selects, and you wouldn't believe the swings that occur. So moving it just to the C2F2, similar copays, that would save you 6 points as well. These are conversations we'll gladly have with any and all of you. If you just reach out to us and say, I need to get to this number, we'll help you get there with the most minimal change possible. Most minimal change possible. That's a curious structure of words. I just had to think about that for a second. Bob.
Okay. Yeah. On the same theme, as in the past, with the pacing committee, the trustees will be looking at plan selection over the course of the next year, recommending plans for elimination, suggesting plans that you might want to consider strongly. For those of you who are still in the personal choice area as opposed to the HMO area, we're very happy with what's been going on with the high deductible health plans, and strongly encourage those schools that have a lot of members who are in the personal choice area to look at the high deductible plans. The rating of those plans so far has been excellent, and the people who've moved a lot of their employees into have had a high level of satisfaction. Again, what's good about those plans is they have extremely good coverage. Okay, they cover just about everything. There are some back-end limitations and exclusions, but they're extremely comprehensive, and therefore every service that your employees will be securing will be at a discounted rate. Because the employees agree to pay the front-end deductible, which is substantial, $1,500, $2,500 for the single, $3,000, $5,000, I think $2,500 and $5,000 for $3,000 and $5,000 for the family group. Even though you're paying a lot, taking most of the front-end responsibility, Blue Cross in the rating is rewarding you heavily for taking that risk. In other words, the premiums are dropping more for the most part than you're taking on in terms of exposure. So I would advise people to, as you're looking at plan selections, to look real hard at those. John?
We have a couple of questions for our webinar. One goes back to the calculation, which I think, John, you can answer specifically at another time. But this, how did they determine what the trust administration cost was? Is it a set % of rate increase or total premium? Or that's a question from one of our schools.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand the question totally, so I'm going to probably give more of an answer than's needed. There are three components to the percentage that is being charged above the premium paid to Blue Cross. As in the past, 0.25%, a quarter of a percent, is going to pay ZBOA, the membership organization, as a royalty in support of its program. 0.3, this is the new amount, goes to the third-party administrator for doing all the billing. It's for doing the billing and collecting, et cetera. And then the third fee in the past was called a wellness fee, and that's 0.3%. In the future, we're going to charge that same amount. It's going to be a combined wellness and administrative fee, so that the costs of the running the trust itself, legal, auditing, et cetera, will be covered in addition to the wellness programs.
Frank, I'm jumping ahead of you. Oh, you know what? I'll repeat your question for everybody.
So on the last slide, when you show these comparisons, in the past you did a very interesting study that showed, in some years past you did this, where you showed the difference that it would take in a particular employee. As an example, you know, if they'd have to go to the doctor 7 times a month, and they'd have to have 12 prescriptions for their family in order to have that premium differential versus the copay differential cost then.
Right.
And I found that really, really useful in sharing those kinds of examples with employees. So I would encourage you to share those again.
Right, so if we were to come out to your school, or if we were to engage with some planning sessions, we would dictate those and say, you know, the differential on copays versus the amount of premium saved equals 7 visits to the primary care, 10 of these drugs, et cetera, before there's an offset, right? So we'll gladly do that for anybody who wants to sit down and kind of review that structure. But when it gets down to the employee level, and we say to the employees, this is the plan change, and here's why, and here's how it directly impacts you, we use those data points, and they put people's minds at ease. Thank you. Is there another question, Colleen, or is that it? Okay. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I have to actually call your attention to the open enrollment timeline. This is huge because there is a real compression on our turnaround. We have mentioned this. This has been verbalized both, you know, in these settings, but via email as well. And it's nothing to do with Affordable Care Act. It's nothing to do with MIWA. It's inherent in Blue Cross. Blue Cross is changing their platform from its current structure over to high marks. Okay? And because of that, this massive conversion is really kind of forcing us to get things done sooner so that ID cards get out on time. And you think, it's an ID card, who cares? It's huge. The ID card has a different number. So when you go to the pharmacy, no, let's change that. When your employees go to the pharmacy en masse on November 1st, which you know they will, they're going to be told if they're using their old card, termed, no coverage. And then they call you furiously, and they call the head, and they go bonkers, when really all that has happened is they're using their old card, which shows the old number, as opposed to the new card. Now, in order to prevent all that, we're simply asking that you do 2 things. Number 1, as a group, as a school, tell us what your elections are going to be. We don't care necessarily who's going where, just what plans are you going to choose by the end of August. So we're asking that you take the time now, and this is why we pushed this meeting up, so that we can give you a little bit more time, and hopefully the low renewal number affects outcomes. But you tell us, these are our plans. Good, got that. Check that box. And we'll build that on the back end. The second thing is, where am I putting your people? So then you're going to tell us by the end of September, put them here, him here, blah, 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 and we'll do that for you. You could do it if you like, through the admin tool that I'll go through in a minute, but Armstrong, Dale, and Carroll will gladly carry that water for you. If we can get that all into the system by the end of September, then that will all push into Independence Blue Cross, and then that will kick out the cards that hopefully get there by 11/1. If they don't get there 11/1, we have a slight handicap. In the past, you would call us up and say, I need ID cards for this one, this one, this one, and this one. And we go online, and we would print out those PDFs and send them out to you. Can't do it anymore. That functionality is gone from our end. It's got to be member-driven. So a member would say, I don't have a new ID card, and we would hold their hand and say, no problem. Here, I'll print one out. Here it is. There you go. Off into the wilderness with you. But now, they would have to do that. So again, I'm just anticipating a negative reaction to this. So in order to get ahead of it, I'm simply asking for two things. Please make your elections ahead of time, and then please make your employees' elections ahead of time. One last thing, and this is self-serving, but it's important. Last year, years in the past, we would do open enrollment meetings. We at Armstrong Northern Carroll, we would do open enrollment meetings in the middle of October, sometimes the end of October. I've gone to schools like on the 25th of October, knowing that the open enrollment is 5 days away. We can't do that anymore. We at our firm, we lost about 20 to 25 days. So we're massively compressed. And we're simply asking that if we were to do employee meetings, that they're targeted. So we try and make the most impact of our time at your schools, so that if you say to us, can you come out for this meeting, we'll gladly be there. But if there's going to be a myriad of meetings, we want to talk about trying to make that as impactful as possible, right? Larry, where are you? What was that quote about Bruce Lee? One hit, many punch. Says Larry from Westtown, and I love it. I'm going to get that as a bumper sticker on my car. Try and make these meetings as impactful as possible. We'll talk to you about it, but we're just trying to anticipate the compressed timeline that we're facing as well. Blue Cross is going to assist us in getting out to all these schools, but we want to just make you all aware of that. Last thing. You know that Blue Cross is requiring us to pull back on our plan selections. And the plan selections are, you are only allowed to offer 3, a 4th, if that 4th is a high deductible. Of the 3, second bullet point is key. It must be a breakup of either 2 in personal choice and 1 Keystone, or 2 in Keystone and 1 in personal choice. So we have a couple of schools, Helen, right here, we've got 3 Keystone plans and 1 personal choice. They have to remove 1 Keystone so that they're in alignment. All right, so this is just something that Blue Cross Underwriting has foisted upon us, and we're going to have to react to that. So look at your plan selections. There's been, in the past, a couple of schools that will have 5 selections, 6 selections. Pull that back. Make sure that you're 2 to 1 on the Keystone PC or PC Keystone ratio. You can add a high deductible if you like, but we just got to abide by that new rule. And then lastly, because there's really incredibly low population in a number of plans, we've eliminated a couple of these. So I could tell you in PC2, no one. In PC5, 1 person, they went off last year. PC10, 2070, there's 13 people. 10B and 10, that's 1 school. It's a total of 21 people. And those drug plans have a total of 35 people. So the point of keeping them open, it didn't make any sense anymore to continuously have these lines. So we've eliminated these plan options. You'll see that on your packets. If you are a school that's been affected by this, we've highlighted that, and we want to call your attention to it, and we'll talk about the best strategy to move forward. But obviously, if it's one of those drug plans, simply make an adjustment to the drug copay. If it's one of those medical plans, just move to the next medical plan. All right? You actually, if you're on that 10/20/70, you move to 20/30/70, you just save about 6 points. So win-win. All right? Okay. I'm going to shift gears and move into Business Solver. I am at the 1 hour and 5 minute mark. How's everybody feeling? Good. Yeah? Good clip? You're cold? It's freezing in here. Well, we did that intentionally, Yanni, because when it's warm and balmy, people think they're in the tropics and they all doze off. So we're trying to keep it Arctic. All right, so for Business Solver, we'll just spend the next couple slides talking about this third-party administrator. Just to reiterate what Bob said at the beginning, we spent months poring over a number of different vendors who would pick up this business because remember what happened. We had to become a multi-employer welfare arrangement. We couldn't be 140 disparate schools. We had to be one unified body. As such, Blue Cross had to send out 1 bill. So that had to go to a TPA who would then send that out to all the schools. We actually kind of re-engineered that and said, instead of Blue Cross sending out 1 bill, Business Solver will say, here's what we owe you. So we kind of we backfilled that thing. But Business Solver is our third-party administrator, and that's going to be the system that we'll use to, A, process all of our enrollment, and B, handle all of our billing. And Jackie and I were out there last week. I got to tell you, we think we found a home run. We are, this sounds corny, Iowa, get it? Oh! It's a corn state. Come on, Chris, work with me a little bit. We think they're phenomenal, and we think that you're really going to enjoy all the enhanced capabilities that you have with them. Jackie, particularly in the back, Jackie Jamgochin, she handles tech. She used to work at a TPA. She thinks their system blows them away, and she said one sentence which I was really struck by. What would take her in the past 15 minutes, because she would have to enter information into this portal and then check it, and then another portal and then check it, she thinks will take her 3. So that's going to be a huge improvement for everybody. They also offer online enrollment for our employees, which will be rolling out in waves, consolidated billing, so instead of getting the Delta bill and the Blue Cross bill and the Unum bill, you'd get one bill. It would all be there. It's supposed to add efficiencies to your lives. It's going to have boardroom-ready reporting. What does that mean? Well, you're always looking for data about your existing population, but it's like a pile of straw. This is going to put it all together for you and give you data that you can bring to the boardroom and say, here's who we are, what we are, and what we're doing. That should be functional for you. We talked about the ACA compliance tools at our last meeting when we talked about the pay or play mandate. We'll get more information to you about that. And the ease of use experience. It's clean. I think you're really going to like it. All right? So what we're going to do in terms of process is collect all of your enrollment information and push that into Business Solver. Business Solver is then going to push that information via EDI. EDI means Electronic Data Interface. I was talking to someone earlier today saying that is so much more efficient than what we do now, because what we do now is we send a paper application to a human being and they type it into a computer. Okay? What we're going to do now is have all this information in the way it's currently built. We've already sent the info to Business Solver, and they're building the architecture this month. And they're going to say, okay, move these people around with a spreadsheet, push, and it just uploads automatically. Nobody doing this. So it's a very, very nice upkeep and functionality. It's making things much more efficient than in the past. They're going to generate bills for all of our membership that you'll be able to review and reconcile, and then the monies that will be used to pay those bills will be done via ACH sweep. So ACH sweep process is something that is new in terms of the medical premium, but not new in terms of your day-to-day functionality. And we talked to a number of business managers, and everyone has some form or version of an ACH sweep process. But if in the past you went through your IBC bill and then you took out a checkbook and wrote a check and put that into an envelope and mailed it, that's changing. And it's changing because we now need to be more efficient in the billing, and premium collection, and payment to Blue Cross. It's key that we work together in concert with this consortium mentality. And if we were to get checks from some and other forms from somewhere else and then ACH from somewhere else, it's too convoluted. It's got to be efficient. It has to be clean. And this is the methodology we're going to employ. Okay? So let me just walk you through a couple slides. And trust me, this is not the end of it. Jackie, Andrea, Matt, myself, we get on a plane at 4 to Iowa. And we'll spend the next 2 days training there. There's webinars that we're going to be rolling out to everybody, and we'll come to you, sit down with you, walk you through this, hold your hand. We're going to do this all to make sure that you're comfortable with it, because we believe in the system and we think this is going to get us all to the next level. So here is their page. You notice up on the left it says Pays Boa. It's the flock of geese, but each one of these pages actually is adaptable. So EA can throw up theirs, and you can do yours, Frank, as well. Germantown Friends can put up theirs. So it's going to be your actual own landing page, and we'll go through how to build those with you individually, all right? But if we look at our billing cycle here, you would go onto this page, and you're going to click on the billing overview schedule, and it's actually going to take you to the opportunity to review your trial bill. This is different from what you get right now, because what you get right now from Blue Cross is, here's your bill, see you next month. Well, this is going to say, here's your bill, do you agree? And then you have a little bit of time to actually go in there and reconcile. So if you added someone or deleted someone, it's not showing in that 3-day window, you can make an adjustment. So the bill that you pay is an accurate bill. Isn't that a novel concept? So that's a new functionality which we think is going to enhance things. So you have the ability to look at a trial bill. You would click on that tab up there, Administration. And again, I'm just giving you such a 30,000-foot view of this. I'll sit down with you. We'll go through it in detail, get you comfortable, make sure you're okay. But you click on the Administration, and you would actually go to the Billing Invoice Document Center, and there's your bill. So as opposed to it coming in an envelope, it's going to be hanging out. And you go into your portal, click in, and download that document that's going to show your invoice. That invoice is going to be billed off of the same billing rules that we currently use with Independence Blue Cross. So everything that we're doing today, we're going to carry forward into the future. But what we want to do in terms of a process flow, I'll get into that in 1 second, is going to be very strict timelines, so we want to make sure you see them. Last thing, webinars are available at all times. We're going to run specific ones for Pays Boa schools. We'll say, here's the date and the time, here's the login, please join in, and people from Business Harbor will walk us all through this. Plus, we'll gladly come out and sit down with you, pull the chair up next to your computer, and show you the functionality. It shouldn't take more than 1 or 2 tries before you're comfortable with it and you say, yeah, got it, good, great, great. And then if you do have problems, we're there to help moving forward, all right? Here's the calendar of events, though. So if you take a look at this, and again, these slides will be available, so I just want to make sure that you don't go crazy trying to write this all down. Look at October. So we gave you the timelines. We said we need all your enrollment information by 9/26. So we key that information all in. Business Solver now is housing this enormous repository of who's going where at what particular school. And they're going to push that into Blue Cross. And they're going to say, based upon who's going where and the rates in those particular plans, here is what we owe you, Blue Cross. They're going to give you, in that red section on the 8th, 9th, and 12th, because it runs through a weekend, a trial bill period of 3 days. So they'll notify and say, hey, trial bill's out. You can go onto that web page, pull it down, make sure it's copacetic and everything lines up with the changes that were made. Then, after you've gone through that functionality, they're going to take the 13th, 14th, and 15th to plug that information into Blue Cross and send that off to the carrier saying, here's where everybody's sitting for that current month. So for October, it's huge because it's our open enrollment month, so we want to have all that in, locked and loaded. Now, one important thing. After that information is sent and all the billing is locked and loaded, they're going to sweep what you owe. And the ACH sweep is going to be done in the last week. And that 28th that I circled is not always going to be the 28th because you can see November, the 28th is a Saturday. So it's going to be in the last week. And we talked last week with Carol. Thank you for helping us out with this, where we had a business manager on the phone to say, what's ideal? And she said, don't do it on the 31st, because sometimes that will flow over to the next month. It screws things up. Give us a little bit of a cushion there. So we said, okay, fine, we'll do it in the last week towards kind of the front end. So the 28th, 27th, somewhere around that section, they'll pull the funds. The MIWA structure is that Joan Barone will say, I authorize payments from these funds, from all of these schools, to now pay our carriers, and that will be done at the end of the month. It must be pay as billed. There's a trial period for you to reconcile, but after that is finalized, it must be paid as billed. There can't be short pays. There can't be that methodology that sometimes is employed now where you say, well, I'm going to take the credit and have that flow through next month. No, this is pay as billed because we're moving to electronic formats, so the efficiencies are key, but they break down if you don't follow that ruling structure. So we just want to be very, very clear on that. And again, this will all be reiterated in massive detail in a couple of weeks from now. In the coming weeks, we'll get this all out.
Will we get a reminder before the 28th or whatever the sweep date is, 2 days before, or will there be something that comes to us by email so we know it's full?
Yes.
On that date?
Yes.
Repeat it, John.
Sorry. Will there be a reminder that prior to the ACH sweep actually happening, that it's going to happen? Yes, there will be a reminder. And also, one other thing, if there was a breakdown and the funds aren't available, so they sweep an empty account, there is a bridge gap in there. You can have the monies wired the next day or the day after, just as long as it gets in there before premium is remitted to the carrier. If premium is remitted to the carrier and you didn't have your funds in there, you're a non-paying school. Non-paying schools will be termed. So that's critical that we make sure that we have everyone kind of in the same form and fashion. And this goes back to what we said earlier. These efficiencies that we're putting in place, all are running on this rule-based process, which is actually, we think, a huge enhancement. But if you are accustomed to a methodology of writing paper checks and doing your own credits and debits, you do have to make an adjustment to that methodology. Bob.
Yeah, when we reported to you, I think in May, whenever our last meeting was, on our TPA selection and what we'd done to get the best possible price for the best possible service. At great length, we told you at that time, we're repeating now, that the relationship with the third-party administrator is an online relationship. It's the non-phone relationship. To the extent that you need this relationship handled, mediated by a human being, okay, we've got our wingtips on the ground, okay? Armstrong Doyle Carroll has in the past helped our schools on, daily, monthly basis with all these kinds of issues, and they are equipped and will be trained and prepared to help you out in any way that is necessary. But there is a price to be paid. We've agreed to become not an amorphous herd, but an organized trust of people that our partners can count on to move in very regimented fashion. It's the price of success. It's the price of being in the 21st century. We actually think the main beneficiaries of that change are in this room. Okay, you've now got some big skirts to hide behind. Okay, the trust, Armstrong, Joel Carroll, Business Solver are making it clear things got to happen in a certain way. So that employee who wants an extra month to think about it, it's not going to happen. The committee that wants an extra few days to think about plans, you can't do it anymore, and it's not your fault. So if there's a complaint, send them to John or send them to me.
All right, so just a little bit more on the rules, and then I'm actually going to turn it over to Andrea from Blue Cross, and she can talk about that in terms of eligibility. We had asked this question on the participation agreement, which was, what are your eligibility rules? Because we've got to build this into the IT infrastructure. So the rule that we got back by 80% margin is when you hire a person at your respective schools, they become effective on the first of the month following that date of hire. So today's the 6th. You hire me today. I get benefits 9/1. All right. There were some people who did not reply on that participation agreement. We're going to default you into that rule. If you specifically articulated that you wanted to have benefits eligible on date of hire, Claudine, where are you? There you go. Harcum does date of hire. So we're going to build that rule specifically for Harcum. And if you've enunciated, no, we need 60 days. Can't be 90. Affordable Care Act says 90 and above is illegal. So whatever your rules are, if they weren't mentioned on that, we're going to default you. Now, this can be changed over time, but we're doing the structuring now. If your policy is different and you don't feel that you plug that in, contact us, please, and we'll get that in place.
John, how do we know if you've defaulted us or if we've made that change? Is there a way for us to see that when we go on?
Well, so you'll be able to see it when you go on, Mina, but we're going to get that data from the participation agreement. So I could send that copy. Or actually, we could consolidate all this into a spreadsheet, what everybody's doing. I can maybe disseminate that and say, here's what we have. If it's wrong, change it now. Because I've got to get that into Business Solver to build. The other thing is COBRA. So Business Solver is taking over the COBRA responsibility effective 11/1. So this is huge for everybody because it's a lot of efficiencies achieved here, simply that they're just taking care of the QELs, they'll be collecting, they're doing all of that for us. So that's very, very nice. However, we want to make certain that we have all COBRA information in-house with them 11/1. So we collected, we think, 70 to 75% of everybody's COBRA information. There are certain schools that do it in-house, or they may use another vendor that we're not familiar with. We need to touch base. So Sharon Douglas and Jackie Jim Gochin, they've been reaching out to everybody saying, we know that you're not with the COBRA vendor that we use, which is BAS. If you're not, can we get that information as quickly as possible? Because again, we can't leave those people off. They have rights, right? And so we got to make sure that their coverage continues forward through the Business Solver platform. Hugely important.
So we drop BAS as of 11/1?
Correct. You drop BAS as of 11/1. And we have already taken, you need to do nothing if you're a current BAS client. We've taken information from BAS and a number of other vendors who we've touched base with and already migrated that over to Business Solver.
So what's going to happen if we place for Curry and Cobra or the people who's BAS? Who's going to come to them? The ones who know
Business Solver is going to contact the existing COBRA. I'm reiterating it, Bob. Business Solver is going to reach out to existing BAS COBRA members and tell them, we have made this change and we are your new COBRA vendor. And that will be seamless. All right? Yes?
Right now, I have nobody enrolled in COBRA, but I expect to have 3 or 4 come September 1st. Will BAS roll over into Business Solver?
Yes, so they'll go into BAS for 2 months and then flip over to
We're good
Business
then.
Solver 11.1.
Okay, thank you.
Sin.
What is the timeline?
What's the timeline for business solvers to take over? Because BAS in the past has been later in the month of October to send out open enrollment information. It's been my experience.
Where's Jackie? She walked out? Jackie, we'll tie that off with them tomorrow. So we're going there tomorrow, and we'll get the details and spell them out to everybody, specifics on the COBRA timeline.
Going back to your last slide, if we have lots of teachers who start on the 1st of September, and you say state eligibility is the first month following the date of hire, we say the date of hire is 9/1, does that translate to them starting 10/1?
You would have specified that on your participation agreement under Section D, Other.
Okay.
So if they got hired on the 1st, the rules would have dictated they would go to the next month.
Right.
But if you wrote on Other,
Is with the-
unless it begins with.
Yeah. and that's
John,
what we have.
the important thing to remember is this whole new plan takes effect for 11/1, not 9/1. Frank, this whole process takes effect for 11/1, not 9/1. So employees that would be starting 9/1 will be handled the same way as they have in the past,
Right,
correct?
but I think Frank's point is an important one. Cabrini says that if you're hired on 11/1, 12/1, 1/1, if it's the 1st, you go on the 1st. If it's the 2nd, you go to the next month. These are rules. They're not concrete. If they get plugged in and you don't agree with them, there's a manipulation that can occur. Wonderful thing about Business Solver, it's fluid. So as opposed to locking it in for ad infinitum, there's a manipulation that is available, which you'll, I think, enjoy. All right? Okay. Now, I'm going to turn it back over to Andrea Meehan. I'm going to turn it over to Andrea Meehan. She's going to go through the platform changes that are happening with Blue Cross. We'll have one last encapsulation slide at the end. But again, reach out to us and let us know as soon as you can what you guys are intending to do and if you need any help with that decision-making process. Okay? You're very welcome. Yes. All yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Sorry. Good morning. I'm Andrea Meehan. I work with Independence Blue Cross. I want to thank you for making me a part of your agenda today. And I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you to the team at Armstrong, Doyle, and Carroll. Thank you to Bob. And pretty much to everyone in this room for continuing to partner with Independence Blue Cross. It was a interesting renewal process, to say the least. And the PASIG schools have been a longstanding partner with Independence Blue Cross, but we also realize that you have a lot of options in the marketplace. So we just want to say thank you for continuing to partner with us, and we hope that this relationship, lasts for many years to come. So what I'm here to talk to you about today are a lot of new and exciting changes that are going to be taking place with Independence Blue Cross that will impact you from your day-to-day, business services, as well as some changes to your membership. So I started to talk about this briefly in the meeting in May. Basically, the reason why IBC is transitioning all of our group customers, all of our members to a new platform is to gain efficiencies. As John had mentioned before, the enhancements that we make for technology purposes ultimately can reduce our administrative costs. So we're going to talk about first the customer experience. So how are these changes going to impact you, the people in your office, your day-to-day services? So what we're doing with this platform transformation, as we're calling it, we're taking a renewal-based approach. So IBC has been migrating our group customers upon their renewal date to our new platform. So what that means for you is that this change is going to take effect November 1st. If you have any Personal Choice 65 or Keystone 65 membership amongst your schools, that change will take place January 1st, as that's when those plans renew. So for a majority of your employees, that's going to take the change will take place November 1, 2014. So one of the key changes is in regards to your account structure. So as it exists today, I'd say on the new platform, the group numbers are going to have a different functionality. As it exists today, you may have a group number with an HMO and a point of service plan housed under one group number. On the new platform, it's going to be a one-to-one relationship with a group number and a benefit plan design. So a group number is truly going to identify one specific benefit design. Underneath your group numbers, or as a subset of your group numbers, you may have account numbers that are showing up on your invoices. Now, obviously, there's a different billing process that's going to be in place, but account numbers you also see on the group portal, but they are no longer going to be used. So account numbers are being eliminated. The other thing is that today's group numbers are typically 6 digits. On the new platform, your group numbers will be 8 digits. So that's another change you want to pay attention to. There are a lot of new and exciting things that are going to be available on the employer portal. I don't see many of you accessing the employer portal as frequently as you do today. Obviously, you're going to have this new relationship with Business Solver. I would say primarily you're going into the group portal today to do enrollment transactions, et cetera, so that's going to be replaced by Business Solver. But I just wanted to mention that the employer portal is going to have a new look and feel. So if you log on, you go to ibexpress.com, you put in your login and password, those items will not change. There's no need to re-register. But come November 1st, if you log on to the group portal, you're going to see a different screenshot. And up here on the left-hand side, that's going to be the initial screen that you're going to see when you log on to the employer portal. You can either select from enrollment transactions and billing, which you probably won't be accessing too often, or if you sign on to the employer portal to pull IBC forms, you want to run membership reports, those capabilities will still be there. On the right-hand side is pretty much like the landing page for the new employer portal. So I just wanted to bring everyone's attention that it's going to look a little different when you log in after November 1st. So now we want to talk about how is this going to impact your members. So it's the key to a successful migration strategy is all about communication. So throughout this open enrollment period, I'm asking everyone in this room to kind of be a steward of IBC and to communicate the changes that I'm going to go through and how it's going to impact your members. First and foremost, we will be issuing ID cards, new ID cards to all covered individuals. And the reason why we're doing that, as John had mentioned before, everyone is going to get a new ID number. So today, the ID numbers are 10 digits long. If you have, you're the subscriber, you're the employee on the policy, you get a 10-digit ID number. Your dependents get a similar number with a different numerical suffix. That is going to change on the new platform. The new ID numbers, they're called a UMI. It's a unique member identifier. They will be 12 digits long. That number will appear on the subscriber's card as well as all covered dependents on that policy. So for myself, when I got my new card in December, because we renewed in January, I got a card for myself, my 2 kids, and we all had the same ID number, 12-digit ID number. Okay. Right here is an image of the old card on the left and the new card on the right. We used a keystone as an example. So you'll see on the left-hand side that the ID number is 10 digits long. On the new card, you're seeing the new Independence logo. I don't know if you noticed, but we've changed our logo. So you'll see the new Independence logo, a 12-digit UMI number, and right underneath the UMI number is something called an RX BIN number and an RX PCN number. Those numbers are also changing. Those numbers are critical for a pharmacist to use when they're processing pharmacy claims. So as John was mentioning, we've got this condensed time frame for open enrollment. It is pretty critical that we get the ID cards in the members' hands prior to November 1. So if they do have to go to the pharmacy November 1st, hopefully not that day, they have their new card, they can communicate to their pharmacist, I have a new policy number, I have some new pharmacy information, and they can present that card at the time of service. Are there any questions so far? Okay. So in addition to the new pharmacy numbers, also on a Keystone card, you may see a PCP's name change a little bit. It may appear a little differently. We have some abbreviations that we have to require, that are required for the new ID cards. So the PCP name may look a little different as well. But just keep in mind that each covered individual on a policy is going to get their own card. It's going to have their name on it, but everyone is going to, under one policy, is going to have the same ID number. Okay? So we talked about communication and how important it is to let our members know what's going on. So when they receive their card, they're also going to receive this trifold. And it's going to explain, this is why you're getting a new card. It's because you're getting a new ID number. Here's what a sample of what the card should look like. So they can also check to make sure that their information's right. They can discard their old card and continue to use the new one, beginning November 1st. So we're doing our job to make sure that we're effectively communicating these changes to your employees as well. Other options that they have, if for whatever reason, if their card is not received prior to November 1st, they can still, as John had mentioned, go on to the IBC member portal starting November 1st. They can go on, print their temporary card, or they can access a PDF or a copy of their card or image on their smartphone. I'm not sure if everyone was aware of that capability, but through the IBX mobile app, you can pull up an image of your ID card. We're also changing the way our EOBs look, really just like a layout, a difference in layout and the format of the EOBs. So this is just a snapshot of what that's going to look like. There's going to be a glossary that's available on the member portal, so a member can pull down some information to help them understand how the new EOBs look. They also have the option to go paperless. So through the new member portal, they can go in and change their settings and select all communication to be sent electronically if they choose, to forego the paper statements going forward. So there is going to be a new look and feel to the member portal. Our member portal has been completely redesigned, and it'll still have a lot of the same capabilities, a lot of the same functions, but ultimately we wanted to make it easier for people to navigate. So when a member goes to the same website, ibexpress.com, they continue to use their current login and password, so there's no need to re-register. They will be directed, if they sign on November 1st, they're going to be directed to the new member portal. The new member portal, once they log in, they're going to get this little screenshot up here. It's going to ask them to confirm their email address, obviously for security purposes and just to make sure that we're capturing their most up-to-date email address. We're going to ask them to confirm their email. And then a security code is going to be sent to that email address so they can just verify that this is them and this is their active account. So that's really the only step they will need to take to get into the new portal. So this is an image of the member landing page. As you can see, it looks a little bit different from how it is today. And typically what we tried to do is focus in on the most frequently used features of the member portal. So people who are searching for doctors, trying to view their claims history, looking for benefit information, or want to access our health and wellness tools through WebMD, we've really tried to call those out on the member landing page so they're easy to find. But again, we still have a lot of the same capabilities and functions on the member portal. Some of the new features, you may have seen our new provider directory or provider search. We've really tried to revamp how people are accessing our information when it comes to our network of providers. So we have added a capability to include Google Maps. So if you're going to a provider for the first time, we're providing directions on how to get to their office. If you search for like dermatologists within the area, you can customize your search, refine the search, and then actually print a customized directory and save it, to your computer. We also have enhanced quality measures, so we've now allowed our patients and our members to provide feedback on their doctor experience. So similar to when you go onto like Amazon and you want to read the product reviews, we're allowing our members to report that information about their doctor's experience. So they're giving us ratings and reviews on their experience with that doctor. They'll still be able to access their benefit information. Yes? Yes, the reviews will be available to pretty much anyone who can search on our provider search, our provider directory.
That would be beneficial. A lot of the times we get questions from employees about recommending
Mm-hmm. Sure.
We'll guide them through that resource.
Yes.
So they can review and make selection.
Yes. I mean, we do think that this tool is really going to be helpful. I mean, typically when you're searching for a new doctor, you're either asking your primary care physician, you're talking to family members, maybe some of your colleagues. So this tool, we hope, will be really useful for people who are trying to find, the right physician for them. Now, obviously, the ratings and the reviews go through like a quality, assurance perspective. We want to make sure that that patient did in fact go see that doctor, and that, we're not reporting any, that we're just upholding to a standard. So, yeah, we hope it'll be really helpful. So members will still be able to access their benefit information. They can access their benefit booklets, the SBCs, all through the My Benefits tab. Spending accounts is another area where we have gained a ton of efficiencies through the member portal, which I'll talk to you about in a little bit later. But ultimately, your members will be able to manage their health savings account all through the member portal. So today, where you have, you're managing your high deductible health plan and viewing your claims through the IBX portal, and then you're also going out to Bancorp to check the status of your account. Going forward with our new relationship with our new vendor partner, members will be able to manage that all through the IBX member portal. Okay. We've also made, yes?
The change to the banks. That was discussed earlier, I think, at a prior meeting. But are we going to have folks that already have an existing account have to change over? And can you kind of comment on that process,
Sure.
please?
Yeah, absolutely. So our relationship on this new platform is that we have a new preferred bank. It's Bank of America. When we signed up with Highmark to gain these efficiencies for our spending accounts, this is the preferred bank that they use, and that's the one that we're going to be using. So for your schools, if you currently offer a high deductible health plan and you offer it through Bancorp, there is no requirement that you change your preferred bank to Bank of America. So if you choose to keep your preferred bank and your health spending account with Bancorp, you may do so. We're not requiring everybody to change over. We are asking if you're adding a high deductible health plan and a health savings account for the first time, we do ask that you use the new preferred bank. But right, it is not a requirement. One thing I just want to make clear, though, some of the enhancements that I'm going to talk about through the member portal, through the group portal, they will be available to those schools who choose to use Bank of America. Okay, so we can certainly talk in detail, maybe at a later meeting, about those groups who are going to stay with Bancorp and talk about how we're going to handle that. But everything that I'm going to talk to you about today would be the assumption that you're going to go with Bank of America. Okay? Does that answer your question?
So how would you do a transition?
How would you do a transition? Well, through open enrollment, when you're communicating your plan changes to Armstrong, Doyle, and Carroll, they would let us know if you're an existing, high deductible health plan offering school. They would let us know that you want to transition your preferred bank to Bank of America, and we would work with your individual school to make sure that the member accounts get transferred. And we can talk to you certainly about, what details are going to need to be solidified through the open enrollment process.
But I just want to be clear on this point for you, Rick, and for anyone else who's got, a high deductible plan with a population with the HSA. If you're going to move over to Bank of America, you have two choices to make. Do you want to roll their funds from Bank of America over to, from Bancorp to Bank of America? And in doing so, there's a blackout period you need to be aware of, so they wouldn't have instantaneous access to funds, all right? Or the second route, which is obviously the one you'd probably have to take, is you'd have to open up a second HSA. So you'd have people with a Bank of America and a Bancorp. They'd wind down the Bancorp as they fund up the Bank of America. Not clean, but that's what you'd have to go through.
Can I ask you a question over here? Over here. It's Phyllis. So when we go on the site and when you are signing someone up to be a high deductible participant, it says, do you want information sent from the bank? So now that's going to be Bank of America information that will go to them?
Go ahead.
The site is going to be business software.
Right.
That won't be there.
That won't be, okay.
It's going to say, do you want to have an HSA? And then we're going to say to you, Phyllis, what HSA do you want us to do?
Okay.
Bank of America or Bancorp. We still have a portal with Bancorp, so we would fire the kid off from them if that's what you wanted. But if a school decides, we want to start to move towards Bank of America, then we'll have to build that too.
Okay. The only thing is when you draw down the one account to go to the other, they do start charging you a fee when you're a minimum balance. So that's like
As a member.
A wholesale change would probably be better.
Right. Right. Bank of America actually.
What about the fees for Bank of America?
Bank of America actually has no member fees. So I have a slide that I'm going to talk about the fees when we get to the spending account section, which I can certainly address. So back to the member, did we have any more questions? Yes.
So if somebody stays with Bancorp, can they still see their balance on the new portal?
No, that information will not be integrated. If you are a Bancorp participant, that information will not be integrated through the member portal. Yes.
For the rollover, how long will your fees not be available?
John, for the blackout period, is it 6 weeks? Approximately 6 weeks, I think. And that's a banking regulation. I don't think that, I mean, that has nothing to do with Independence Blue Cross.
If someone doesn't have a balance to roll over, is it just clean that they could go to Bank of America?
Yeah, I think the blackout period, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, but the blackout period pertains that money that you're transferring from Bancorp to Bank of America, those funds would not be available. Starting November 1st, if you're setting up an account with Bank of America and there's an employer funding aspect and the members are funding it, that can begin November 1st. The blackout period pertains to the money you're transferring. Correct?
That's correct. I'm just going to be frank here. If you're an existing high deductible plan with an HSA, in my opinion, I don't see a tremendous amount of upside to going to Bank of America. Andrea, and I have a respectful disagreement about that. There's going to be charges to the employer, not employee, when you move to that structure. So currently, the employee holds those fees, and moving forward with Bank of America would be on you. If, however, I'm a new school for the first time that's thinking about opening a high deductible arm, this may be of interest to you. But in this open enrollment cycle, with everything that's going on, if you're going to then throw into it also another HSA vendor, ooh, that's what I'll say.
Any other questions? Okay. Another enhancement that we've made on the member portal is the capability to view claims. So when you're going into your member portal today, you'll notice that you're limited in what you can see. They ask you to enter a date range. You can search for, I think, for up to 3 months of claims history at a time. On the new member portal, we're going to be transferring about 24 months of your historical claims. So if you need to look back to this plan year or the prior plan year, you still will have access to that through the member portal, but you will also be able to refine your search with ease. So you can search up to 24 months at a time. You can narrow down your search by putting in a specific date range, between 0 and 24 months. You can search by dependent. It's really easy to kind of hone in on exactly what you're looking for when you're researching your claims history. You can also sort and filter by just medical claims or medical and drug or medical drug vision. So we try to make it really easy for you to review your claims history. So John had mentioned previously about the printing and the capabilities around temporary ID cards. On the member portal, that functionality is going to continue. So members will still have the capability to print a temporary ID card. They can also go onto the member portal, request that a new ID card be mailed to them. A new feature that we've added is that if you have dependents who are not living in the area or just living at a different address than what you have on record, you can ask that that ID card be sent elsewhere. So it's not going to change, the address that we have in our records, but if you need to send a ID card off to a kid at school or something like that, you can do so right through the member portal. One thing I just want to make clear, and I know John had mentioned this, but the capability for you to print a temporary ID card through the group portal, that functionality will no longer be available after November 1st. And I know you probably do this quite frequently for your employees, but this is also a great opportunity to introduce them to the member portal, get them using our member portal. Obviously, there's a lot of information. There's tools and resources out there that we want to make sure our members are accessing and are comfortable with. So this is a great excuse to kind of give them that little push to sign on to the member portal. Yeah.
Is there a way to run a report to see who has registered for our
On the
group? I
member
don't know if
portal?
there's a way currently.
I do believe there's a way. I'll have to check on that to see if we can find out who's registered an account. The trouble with that, the tricky part, like 100% of your employees may have registered with the portal, but no one may be actively using it. So it could be a little bit misleading, but we'll certainly investigate that. And if you think that's something that would be of interest to you, we'll work with Armstrong to run those reports and see what we can get for you. Okay? Okay, any questions on the member portal? Yes.
Employees to kind of help them,
Mm-hmm.
help them through the member portal? Because a lot of times if you don't give them something visual, they
Right.
won't go any further.
So that's a good question. Do we have any materials and as such to support this massive change? Yes, we do. In a future slide, I do have a slide that talks about communication materials, but ultimately, I think open enrollment is the best time to communicate these changes. So included, if you request enrollment packets from Independence Blue Cross for your open enrollment meetings, there will be information about the new ID card, the new member portal, some changes to our Healthy Lifestyles programs, which I'm about to talk about. So yes, we absolutely have the support and the materials to support you through this migration. If you have specific requests, channel those through Armstrong, Doyle, and Carroll, or come to me directly. We should be able to tailor something that'll meet your needs. Okay, yes.
Andrea, I'm just concerned with this change because I feel we get a lot of pressure to provide communications to employees who don't use computers at work via paper.
Okay.
And we extend that through the whole open enrollment process. So we do one mailing for one group, a different mailing for another group. And I just feel this is a little conflicting with that in that how are these people supposed to access a computer? I mean, I know a lot of people use it at home. I understand that, but not everyone. And I feel like they're the people who are going to ask them, to have the greatest inquiry about how do I get the new card, and I won't be able to do anything for them.
Right. I mean, we are trying to work with our group customers. Like, I personally have had several groups who just recently migrated in July, and we have worked closely with them to support them in what they need. We can develop a plan or a strategy for your school if you really see this presenting as a problem. I do think, though, a lot of people carry smartphones. I mean, would you agree with that? The IBX mobile app, I mean, maybe people, if they're not accustomed to logging onto a computer, maybe they would be open to accessing it right on their smartphone. That's another suggestion. We're trying to encourage them to access this information on their own. So we're hoping that will alleviate some things that you might have to do in your office as well. But if this presents a significant problem for you, give us a call and we can certainly try to work something out for you for the migration. Yeah.
Do you have instructions available now on how to access the current member portal?
Yes. Are you talking about logging in? Okay, so the question was, do we have instructions on how to log in or how to register for the member portal? Yes. What we can do is, I will share that. I'm pretty sure I have almost everyone's email address here, so I can do like a blast and share those materials and actually some supporting open enrollment materials that we have, so you have them electronically. I don't know if you want to post them to your intranet site or something now in preparation for open enrollment, but that would be a good idea. We can give to you flyers that talk about the temporary ID card functionality, the new member portal, the fact that members are going to get ID cards, and also instructions on how to log in and register, and most importantly, a phone number of who they should call, like a website support area if they forget their password or something like that. That's something that we're not going to have, meaning like a member's password, and that's not something you're going to have. So if we can get them to, that first step resolution would be to contact our website support. That would be really helpful to them as well. Yes? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just saying, that's the problem we encounter. I tend to be more resourceful. I'm going to get in one way or another. My employees less so. And no, not every one of them, if I heard somebody will say annoyance, when they're working with tracks, particularly ones that I have more seasoned, they won't use computers that much. And most of them, sometimes they have cell phones and some of them still have flip phones.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have some concerns there. It's not to come here and stump anybody, but I want to say the reality is I think if you see mine, it's have an issue with that.
Okay. I have to repeat all that? Oh, boy. So I think there's just some concerns that are being raised about accessing all of this information via the web. This is just one way to access your information. Obviously, it's the preferred way. We encourage our members to get familiar with our member portal as there are so many resources available to them. We're more than happy to provide, paper flyers, anything like that that can assist you throughout your open enrollment process. And we've put many, many safeguards in place from the IBC side. I mean, obviously, we have been migrating our group customers to the new platform in segments since January. So we've gone through this a couple of times. The reason you might be experiencing delays is because there are a lot of questions that are coming up, because this is new to everybody. So you will experience longer wait times, and we do apologize for that. We're trying to, get to everyone we can as quickly and, most importantly, as efficiently as possible. We will work with you throughout open enrollment to make this as successful as possible. I think what's ultimately critical is the communication. So whether that be electronic flyers where you're posting stuff to the intranet, whether it be paper flyers where we are communicating to your members about the upcoming changes, we're more than happy to do that. Another critical piece, as John had mentioned before, is that timeline. The sooner we get your plan changes, the sooner we get your membership, open enrollment elections, and the sooner Business Solver gets that information to us, we are better positioned to get those ID cards out prior to November 1, and ultimately, we're in a good place for the effective date of November 1st. So if I can stress anything, the timeline is absolutely critical. As John had said before, member goes to the pharmacy, they're going to be denied. We have put a lot of safeguards in place. We've been constantly communicating with our provider community about these upcoming changes. So we have provided to them what we're calling crosswalks. So if someone walks into a pharmacy on November 1st and they're still carrying their old ID card, the intent is for the pharmacist to look in the system, look at their old information, and then see that crosswalk information with their new ID number, their new PCN, their new BIN number. That's the intent. Now, honestly, what we've experienced with previous migrations, sometimes the physicians and the doctors, the pharmacists aren't taking those extra steps, so that can be a communication breakdown. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, there's not going to be disruption. But we really would love to get the ID cards out very timely, so we need your help with that, and I think that will position us for success with the migration. Yes? That's a good question. So the question was about referrals, maybe prior auths. Everything has already been, believe it or not, converted to the new platform for all of your members already. We start the migration process about 3 months prior to the effective date. So we are constantly updating our vendor partners with, enrollment changes, prior auths, referrals, et cetera. We've seen actually very little disruption with referrals and prior auths. Mm-hmm. Yes, Ann. Did you say when? Right. On the new platform, I believe they can just use their social security number, but I will verify that, and I will include that specifically what they need to register in our communication when we send that out. Today they cannot? They need their ID number? Okay. And another thing that we intend to do is that as we near the November 1st effective date, what we're going to do is provide Armstrong, Doyle, and Carroll with a file that has the list of every single member that we have on the plan with their new ID number. So hopefully we can get that information out to you. You can have that. You can just keep it in case you get a phone call from a member. Or if you want to send that out to your employees, that's up to you. but we found that to be really helpful with our previous migrations. Okay. All right, I have to zip through a couple of our last slides, but there are some changes to our Healthy Lifestyles programs. We've really streamlined all of our wellness and health and wellness programs and put them all under one umbrella. It's branded as the Healthy Lifestyle Solutions Program. We've kind of broken it down into 3 categories: staying healthy, getting healthy, and then managing care, which would be like ongoing chronic conditions. But in terms of the most popular plans, the reimbursement plans, you've got your fitness plan, the weight management plan, and the tobacco cessation plan. We've streamlined those reimbursements, so starting November 1st, the reimbursement amount will be $150 for each one of those programs. So that is a slight change from how it is today. Another key thing to point out, you don't need to pre-enroll in any one of these programs. So let's take the fitness program as an example. As long as you complete 120 gym visits within a year, you would submit for your reimbursement. We take a look at it. If you've done your 120 visits, bam, you get your money back. So there's no need to call Independence Blue Cross, enroll with the program, and then the clock starts ticking then. If you can just prove to us you've gone 120 times within a year, you get your $150 back. Another thing to call out is that the Weight Watchers Online, which was previously not included in our program, is going to be eligible for reimbursement as well, and people find that really helpful. We are eliminating some certain plans, so just to bring your attention to that, the reimbursement for the bike helmet, first aid, CPR classes, those reimbursements will go away on the new platform. So this is just kind of a snapshot of what you will need, what a member would need to do when submitting a reimbursement. We've also made a lot of enhancements to how members will get reimbursed. Today, you fill out a form, you submit your documentation that you've gone to the gym, 120 times, you send it to IBC, and within a couple weeks, we're sending you out a check. Well, we've really made some efficiencies to this program. Members will have to go to a website, it's ibx.com/reimbursements. They would log on to this vendor site, upload their proof that they went to the gym, however, 120 times, and then they will receive their reimbursement. We can either do it via direct deposit, or we can issue an American Express gift card, but fees will apply. Okay, so these are just important changes that are going on with the Healthy Lifestyle Solutions programs. I already talked about communication. If one thing I can direct you to on this page is that website that's highlighted in yellow, which is our customer playbook. Anything, any questions, any reference materials that we have about this migration process are all housed on that website. There's online tutorials for member portal, group portal, there's guides, there's fact sheets. So if you leave this room and then you have, oh, I forgot to ask that question at the meeting, this is really a great place to start to help try to find your answer. Spending accounts, I will just try to zip through this, but so for those of you who are going to be adding a new high deductible plan for the first time, as I mentioned before, we have a new preferred bank, which is Bank of America. But the great thing about this new program is it's completely integrated. So the high deductible health plan on the medical side, as well as the account management perspective from the group, from the employer perspective, as well as from the member's perspective, everything is going to be managed through the IBX member portal. As an employer, we're going to be offering a suite of reports that you can run to track where your members are. I mean, obviously it's not identified, but in aggregate, where your members are and reaching their deductibles, how they're accessing that account. Members, this is a key enhancement, is that members will be able to pay their providers directly through the IBX member portal. So if you go on the IBX member portal to view a claim, there is an option for you to actually pay that provider directly right through the member portal. So that saves a lot of time, getting a bill, however you're making your payments today, issuing a check, using that debit card. You can actually do that all electronically through our member portal. Again, if you select Bank of America. As John had mentioned, there are no member fees. However, there is an employer fee. That is going to be new if you're either transitioning from Bank of America or you're signing up for the first time. For the PASIC schools, it's $2.85 per account per month. So if you have 20 people enroll in the high deductible health plan, that fee is going to be added to your monthly premium. That is something that is new. Okay. If you do select this option for open enrollment, we can certainly work with you, and we'll work through Armstrong, Doyle, and Carroll to get you set up with contributions, and we'll get the account set up for your members and let you know what you need to provide to us for this open enrollment period. So that was it in a very summarized version. Yes, Cindy?
Maybe John might know, did the Bancorp fees go up? No.
I don't think so. So are there any other questions? If you think of anything else, you can always reference the customer playbook. Most of you have my email address. Feel free to contact me directly, but we're really looking forward to working with you over the next year and hope this goes smoothly. So thank you.
Don't get up and leave.
Sorry, don't get up and leave.
It's literally one slide. All right. Everyone said this 6 times. Just about timelines. And all these things are going to be made available for you. I just wanted to say one last thing. Thank you. Thank you for your business. Thank you for your partnership. It's a pleasure to serve the Pays Butler Consortium of Schools. We love you. Thank you.
As you all know from running your own schools, good partnerships are what make good programs happen. And on behalf of the trustees, I want to thank Armstrong, Doyle, and Carroll again, certainly IBC for their 40-plus years of service to this group, and our new partners at Business Solver. So thanks a lot to everybody.